The biting gale of the Icelandic highlands fades, its howl swallowed by a suffocating, ancient silence. Beneath the frost-cracked earth, the air grows thick, heavy with the scent of damp loam and the copper tang of forgotten centuries. Here, in the subterranean dark, the veil between life and the abyss begins to fray, summoned by a power that defies the grave itself. From the crushing weight of the soil, a vulva stirs. Her form is a jagged silhouette against the encroaching gloom, rising not as a memory, but as a vessel for truths that were old when the world was young. Standing before her is a figure draped in shadow, a traveler whose presence commands the very foundations of the earth. He is the All-Father, Odin, his broad-brimmed hat casting a cowl over the wisdom etched into his weathered features. As he leans forward, the flicker of a single guttering torch catches the hollow of his missing eye, the empty socket, a silent testament to the price he has already paid for insight. He does not blink. His remaining eye burns with a terrible, desperate hunger, a divine thirst for the forbidden knowledge of the end. Around them, a rhythmic, guttural chanting in the tongue of the ancients begins to vibrate through the marrow of the stones. She has been brought back to speak of the beginning, the 9 realms, and the inevitable, burning twilight that awaits the gods themselves. The prophecy of the Völuspá is about to be whispered into the dark. Before the stars were pinned to the velvet canopy of the night, there was only Ginnungagap. Imagine a void so absolute it defies the very concept of depth, a yawning abyss of infinite stillness, where ink spills into the primordial waters of potential, swirling in high contrast shadows of black and silver. This was the womb of existence, silent and hollow, until the frost of Niflheim met the consuming fires of Muspelheim. From the collision of these impossible extremes, life began to stir. Out of the raw, chaotic static, the giant Ymir emerged, a monumental figure of ice and heat. But Ymir was not meant to be. The sons of Bor, Odin, Vili, and Ve descended upon the primordial titan, and with the cold, sharp precision of a sculptor's chisel, they carved reality from his limbs. Bones became the crushing mountains, blood the churning, salt-stung oceans, and flesh the soil of the world. It is a violent, percussive birth, echoing through the eons as the cosmos is hewn into 9 distinct realms. Then, as the dust of creation settles, the first golden rays of a nascent sun bleed across the pristine plains of Ymir, warm and blinding against the newborn grass. Yet, even in this moment of fragile glory, there is a chilling counterpoint. From the shadows of the unseen, the Norns emerge. Their fingers, cold and rhythmic, dance across a loom fashioned from ancient, sun-bleached bone, weaving the threads of destiny that bind gods and men alike to their final, burning twilight. If these echoes of the past resonate with you, consider subscribing to join our journey, for in the unfolding of history, there is always another thread to uncover, another secret waiting in the dark to be spoken. Deep, warm beneath the roots of the world, where the earth presses close and the air is thick with the scent of ozone and cooling iron, the dwarves labor in the stifling dark. Hear the rhythm. The bellows breathe like a dying giant, feeding the furnace until the stone glows with an angry, pulsating crimson. Hammer strikes anvil in a relentless, percussive cadence, a metallic heartbeat that defines the very essence of creation. Here, in the belly of the mountain, the master smiths carve secrets into wooden staves. Every rune is a jagged scar of magic, a silent language etched into the grain to command the stubborn elements. But beauty is a shroud for a deeper, more volatile truth. In the dim, flickering amber light, Andvari's gold does not merely catch the flame, it hungers for it. It shimmers with a cold, unnatural luster, a hoard that promises nothing but ruin. We see it then, a single ring, innocuous and heavy, resting amidst the mountain of glittering spoils. It is a weight that pulls not upon the hand, but upon the soul. This is the origin of the poison that will bloom into tragedy, the quiet prologue to the dragon's fire and the fallen hero Sigurd's final breath. Even as they forge, the dwarves know the price of such greed. They craft for eternity, yet every strike of the hammer echoes with the knowledge that some treasures are not meant to be possessed. They are meant to consume. Yet, even as the gold glitters with the promise of ruin, the heavens themselves begin to bleed. The atmosphere shifts, the cool blues of creation surrendering to a suffocating metallic amber. This is the dawn of a different kind of hunger. A war not for tools, but for dominance. The Aesir and the Vanir, two divine bloodlines, collide in a symphony of clashing iron and fracturing sky. In the heart of this chaos stands the goddess Golveig. Accused, bewitched, and cast into the searing center of a pyre, she does not succumb. Thrice she is burned, and thrice she rises from the embers, reborn in the blistering heat, her spirit tempered by the very flames intended to consume her. This cycle of agony and renewal ignites a conflict that shakes the roots of the 9 worlds, until the fatigue of gods demands a conclusion. There is a moment, a fragile, breath-holding silence, as the great wall of Asgard is finally sealed. The stones fit together with a hollow, final thud, locking the two families into a pact forged on blood and exhaustion. It is a peace built on ground as soft as shifting silt, a fragile barricade against a resentment that never truly cooled. Behind those majestic ramparts, the gods stand side by side, yet the tension remains, thick and palpable, like the air before a lightning strike. They have unified in name, but they remain divided by the memory of the fire. Yet, even behind the fortress walls of Asgard, where the air hangs heavy with the metallic tang of old grievances, one god remains restless. For Odin, peace is not a refuge, it is merely a blindfold. Driven by an insatiable, gnawing hunger for truths that the universe was never meant to yield, he turns his gaze inward to the cold, suffocating depths of Mimir's well. The water is obsidian, still as death, reflecting the weary resolve of the All-Father. There is no tremor in his hand as he reaches for the blade. The sharp, copper scent of blood blooms, swirling in the sacred dock, a quiet offering for a clarity that carries the weight of an eternity. As he retrieves the eye, cradling it in his palm like a shattered chalice, the cosmos itself seems to hold its breath. Within that detached sphere, he does not see light. He sees the flickering shadows of his own kin, the final, inevitable collapse of the golden halls, and the encroaching silence of the end. Would you yet know more? The question echoes through the void, a haunting refrain that demands everything in exchange for a glimpse of the inevitable. If these echoes of the past, of choices made in the name of a burden no mortal could bear, resonate with your own understanding of sacrifice, consider joining our journey as a member. In the quiet intersections of myth and history, we find the reflection of our own fragile humanity. We continue to descend into the deep wells of the forgotten, searching for the meaning written in the stars and the blood upon the water. The warmth of the divine realm begins to wither, bleeding into a relentless, biting winter that settles deep within the marrow of the cosmos. It is here, in this hush of falling temperatures, that the inevitable begins, not with a roar, but with a descent. High above, a single sprig of mistletoe detaches from the bough, drifting downward in agonizing slow motion, a tiny, unassuming instrument of cosmic upheaval. As it finds its mark, the light of Balder, the innocent, the beautiful, is extinguished, and the world turns to a shroud of unending grey. Frigg, the mother of gods, bows her head, and as her tears fall, they seem to sap the very colour from the horizon, leaving behind a landscape of ash and sorrow. The narrative of existence, once vibrant, now pivots toward a darker, damp geometry. We descend into the lightless cavern where the architect of this tragedy, Loki, faces his own eternal reckoning. Listen. The silence is broken by the rhythmic, calculated drip of venom, echoing against the jagged stone floor like the heartbeat of a clock counting down to total ruin. Each drop is a sentence, a slow, viscous torment that marks the transition from mythic order to the splintering of reality, signaling that the thread of fate, once spun with hope, is now unraveling into the cold, calculated darkness of the end. The thread of fate, once spun with hope, is now unraveling into the cold, calculated darkness of the end. The ground beneath the 9 realms begins to convulse, a low-frequency shudder that vibrates through the very marrow of existence. Yggdrasil, the ancient world tree that has held the cosmos in its sprawling leafy embrace, groans under the weight of the encroaching void, its roots shivering, as if struck by a winter that knows no spring. Suddenly, the silence of the abyss is shattered by a sound like the splintering of reality itself. The chains of Fenrir, forged in malice and tempered by betrayal, snap like dry twigs. The great wolf is loose, and the hunger in his eyes promises to swallow the stars. From the churning black froth of the sea, the Midgard storm rises, an endless, coiling nightmare of venom and spite, while across the horizon, Naglfar, the ghastly ship crafted from the nails of the dead, cuts through the gloom. The air grows thick, tasting of copper and ash, as fire erupts from the south, a searing, unstoppable tide led by Surt to scour the plains of Vigrid. And then, the ultimate cruelty, the sun, the life-bringer, falters. It bleeds into a sickly, bruised violet before retreating into the maw of absolute darkness. There is no warmth left. There is only the roar of the fire, the howling of the gale, and the terrifying, beautiful certainty that the gods themselves are now just echoes in the coming night. Yet, even as the silence of the void threatens to swallow all memory, the ash does not remain cold. There is a profound, tectonic shift in the marrow of the world, a quiet stirring beneath the cooling cinders. Where once only the screams of the gale resided, now a faint emerald pulse begins to beat. A solitary sprout breaks the charcoal crust, unfurling its leaves toward a sky that is, for the first time in an age, finally washing clean of sulfur and smoke. This is not the vengeance of the gods, but the slow, stubborn triumph of existence itself. We find ourselves looking upon the golden hall of Gimle, a place of tranquil, unending light, where the echoes of the cataclysm have softened into a hum of perpetual peace. The Norse perspective was never one of despair, but of a brutal, beautiful dignity. They knew the sun would set. They knew the winter would bite. Yet they stood tall against the inevitable. If these echoes of the past resonate with the rhythm of your own journey, consider subscribing to join us as we continue to map the foundations of our human story. As the camera pulls back, the roar of the fire fades to a whisper, and we are left with the dry, rasping sound of parchment, a hand gently turning the final yellowed page of an Icelandic manuscript. The prophecy is satisfied, the loop is closed, and in the silence that follows, the world begins to